Not too long ago, you might have seen a video that I did with Sound Meow with Ben, comparing IEMs anywhere from $200 all the way to $3,000. One of those IEM that we covered was Softears RS5 Mark 1. And this is what I said about that Mark 1. This is the most natural and organic sounding, meaning that it does not emphasize on technicalities at all. In fact, I find the timbre on this one to be super excellent. RS5 Mark 1 was in fact the least technical IEM among the ones which we tested that day, including when compared against our full P7. 10% less technical than P7, which was priced at $200. That was kind of a bit mind-boggling, right? Because the gap of 4 years does impart some differences. You know what? This is the answer to that precisely. Softears RS5 Mark 2. Softears RS5 Mark II is pretty much very simple really with the packaging itself. One thing that I really like about it is that the build construction is definitely flagship grade, because the IEM itself, when I look at it closer, it seems to be constructed of glass rather than resin, because it is kind of like really tough when I actually knock on it, and it has some sort of air pressure relief, which is part of the design. You're not going to get any kind of build-up pressure. The most impressive part about this RS5 Mark II, the seal factor. I am just super impressed, especially if you use one of the two supplied tip, which is the UC ear tip. I really love it because once attached, it seals really well that I am barely hearing any kind of ambient noise seeping in. And on top of it, it is quite comfortable as well, because I was able to wear it for a long period of time without any kind of issue at all. And as per the cable itself, pretty much very straightforward and very simple. Clad in all black, it is premium to the feel. Quite interestingly, it comes only in 4.4 mm balance termination. But the good thing is that Softears have included an adapter, so no issue at all there, using 4.4 mm balance or even 3.5 mm single-ended. 7 ohm and 122 dB. This is without doubt one of the lowest impedance and with the highest sensitivity, which also means that it is exceedingly super easy to drive. When I attach it directly from the 3.5 mm single-ended termination to my Xiaomi Mi 90, I was already hearing the kind of sound which I would consider as very usable. 70% of the true potential of this RS5 Mark II. When I attach it to 4.4 mm balance of my Venture Electronic Devastator, which is 2V RMS by the way, I'm hearing a bit more of dynamism to the sound itself, and definitely I would consider that would be already at around 90% of the true potential. RS5 Mark II is all balance amateur, pretty much similar to magnetic planar. When I attach it, my favorite dongle here, which is Time Ear BTE9 by the way, everything gets up to 100%. I am hearing the kind of technicalities, resolution, imaging details and everything which is easily 100%, pushing it to the maximum for this highly efficient and sensitive IEM. It is also seems to be very flexible and adaptable. Adaptable because it scales with different kind of sound signature as well. With even more power from my Hi-B R8 Mark II, RS5 Mark II was able to appreciate different kind of sound temperament, especially when it comes to the timbre itself. It is already 100% when it comes to technicalities with this PTE9, but with that R8 Mark II, two things improve. The sound stage is a lot wider now, more open sounding, more airy, and of course, the timbre seems to be a lot more analog sounding as well. Before I forget, how about tolerance toward very powerful sources? Because with that kind of super low impedance and very high sensitivity, you might be wondering, does it pick up floor noises at all? And I am happy to say that this thing is super silent and clean sounding, even when connected to my 6500 milliwatt of power from the Aune N7 from the 4.4 mm balance in high gain. Now that is crazily impressive. Softears RS5 Mark II, I am very impressed with it. Impressed because Softears have opted to retain and maintain the very same tuning which was first introduced with RS5 Mark I. You can expect this RS5 Mark II to be similarly very analog, natural and organic sounding. It does not exhibit any kind of offensiveness at all. It does not sound clinical and it does not sound edgy at all, despite being classified as a reference IEM. Like I say, pretty much very similar to the Mark I. This Mark II here, first and foremost, would offer the kind of tonality and timbre which I would normally associate with something like Sennheiser HD 600 with a bit of hint of coloration, because I do feel that it has a bit of boosting in the lower frequency, especially in the sub-bass region. What you are getting is something which is tuned to be very neutral, transparent, linearly neutral, but with some hint, some boosting in the lower frequency, especially from mid-bass all the way to the sub-bass, exhibiting the kind of texture and definition which can be expected from a very well-tuned, balanced amateur driver. Fast, tidy, highly detailed with macro and micro detail, and yet it does not sound overly technical or clinical. So I just love the lower frequency of this RS5. And the mid-range, it is definitely very transparent. Be it female vocal, male vocal, or instruments, it all sounded very accurate, at least to my ears. When I took this to a gig very recently, I was able to depend on it for being accurate. And that is the key thing why I love this RS5 Mark II so very much. And of course, not just for monitoring. The mid-range is so accurate and so natural, it is super suitable for listening to every type of music, anything from classical music all the way to rock and metal music. Because for example, if I use it listening to classical music, they just sounded so very realistic and believable. The upper frequency does not exhibit any kind of offensiveness at all, despite being improved with the extension itself, and of course, with the macro detail and the micro detail, Softears have decided to keep the treble energy well under control. So anywhere from the upper mid-range to the highest frequency of the treble itself, you're not going to get anything which I would consider as being spicy. It does not sound metallic at all, despite being all balanced amateur. You can expect the kind of resolution and imaging from a very well-tuned, all balanced amateur kind of setup. And the key thing is that it does not sound offensive at all while doing this. It sounded musical, in fact, while being highly technical at the same time. Resolution depth is good. Imaging is superb. And the best part is that it is also very holographic and wide and open sounding. Now that is super impressive. How does it compare against some of the competition in the market nowadays? With so many competition all the way up to 1,000 US dollar. Just try gonna cover some. Let's just start with the sibling itself, Softears RS5 Mark I. Like I mentioned earlier, Softears have opted to tune them very similarly, retain and maintain the very same sound tuning when it comes to the timbre and tonality. But what this RS5 Mark II does offer is that it improves, especially on the technical side. At least, by my hearing, 20% improvement. And that is definitely a lot, considering that nowadays everything is just so very competitive. And another main difference as compared to the RS5 Mark I is that this is not as warm sounding as RS5 Mark I. I would even consider that the RS5 Mark I being a highly musical IEM rather than technical, and this is very well balanced between musical and technical. And in the process of being technical, it does sacrifice a bit of that element of musicality, but that is not the kind of things that worries me. In fact, I would even easily say that I would prefer this over RS5 Mark I easily. And then of course, there are several other competition in the market which are very impressive and very popular. Something like High Senior Mega 5 EST and also this IO Volare. Both IEM are very highly regarded, and I have rated both IEM very highly as well. RS5 Mark II can easily compete with any two of them, because this is definitely the kind of IEM which I would consider truer to neutral target, because both IO Volare and also High Senior Mega 5 EST is kind of a bit more Harman-ish sort of tuning. And of course, you might be wondering, how does it compare against Studio 2 or even Studio 4 or even Volume S? All three IEM very highly regarded coming from Softears. Now, I'm just gonna simply say that I don't have any kind of experience with Studio 4. Unfortunately, I haven't listened to it, but I do have good experience with Studio 2 or even Volume S. And I'm just gonna put it this way. This is definitely the kind of, let's say, pinnacle of the very same tuning which I have already heard from Studio 2 or even Volume S. RS5 Mark II offers better technicalities when compared directly against Studio 2 or even Volume S. Softears RS5 Mark II is the kind of IEM which I would keep in my inventory because I would honestly see myself using this very regularly, especially when I need accuracy, details, transparency, and the kind of balance with natural timbre and tonality without any hint of coloration. This is the kind of IEM which I can depend on when I do monitoring or even mixing, and of course listening to music. This is the kind of IEM which I would highly recommend if you're looking for very well balanced, very well tuned reference sound. Thank you so very much for watching the video until the end. Without skipping, I hope. Now click like and subscribe, and also follow me on Instagram under the name of AndyAV. And also, if you'd like to support me directly, you can join the membership below for behind the scene, especially for AAV Insider and above, which will allow you to see what I am doing behind the scene.